welcome to the wetlands of Louisiana for this special edition of Environment. These marshes have been hit by hurricanes, oil and by mankind, and they are now literally slip-sliding away. Many fear that this summer's spill could be the final nail in the coffin for an already fragile region. For decades, man has manipulated these marshes, cutting canals for oil and gas pipelines and constructing levees, which leave these grasses with little to grab onto. Since the Deepwater Horizon spill, gallons and gallons of dispersants have been sprayed over the region to dilute the oil. But adding toxic substance to toxic substance has locals and even government officials worried. Finally, we'll be heading up to New Orleans, where homes built hurriedly after Hurricane Katrina are already corroding, causing much concern. Even before the Deepwater Horizon spill put added pressure on the region, Louisiana was set to be losing the length of a football pitch of marshland every 15 minutes, mostly due to levee construction and oil drilling. These grasses are a natural barrier in times of storm, and they provide a home to a rich variety of creatures. But many of man's maneuvers are destroying them, and this land is disappearing.
Ted is an alligator breeder. Each year, he raises about 4,000 of the reptiles. These baby crocs will be turned into wallets and handbags when they're fully grown. But with recent changes in the environment, it's practically impossible to let them grow in the wild.
With more and more salt water coming in, the habitat for alligators is less and less. And that's partially why we have our own broodstock here.
He says the landscape along the coast has changed a lot in the last few decades. With saltwater intruding deeper inland, the marshes have been shrinking, making the area more vulnerable to storms and hurricanes.
Now, 50 years ago, we had plenty of marsh, plenty of friction that would stop the storm surge from coming way up here. And with very minimal levees, we could defend ourselves from a hurricane. Now, we need very high levees.
Levees, water pumps and seawalls. An arsenal of artificial constructions has been built around the Gulf of Mexico to protect low-lying cities from flooding. But these man-made facilities have had some considerable and unexpected impact on the local ecosystems, like this floodgate.
The bayou used to be 273 feet wide. We built the floodgate, now it's only 60 feet wide. Once we just built it, with the gates open, we've slowed down the salt so much that the fresh water has been able to take over and we have more vegetation growing in the bayou. So it's always complicated. It's not contradictory if you understand the system, but everything is very complex.
A 60-kilometer levee now surrounds the town of Grand Isle. Similar measures are taken not just in Louisiana, but also in other places along the coast, like Dauphin Island in Alabama. Hurricane Katrina left part of the island underwater. Now, local authorities have installed rock breakwaters along the shore with money from BP to mitigate the effects of the recent oil spill, but also of storms.
It was BP that sponsored this particular project. I'm 100% supportive of the project. I think it's not only worthwhile from oil protection, but also long-term.
The costly project, estimated at between $12 and $15 million, has also sparked controversy. Some scientists say it could speed up coastal erosion.
When waves come in from the Gulf of Mexico and strike the rocks, they hit the rocks, but it's going to bound back off the rocks in multiple directions. And what's going to happen when we get a big hurricane is the sand on this side here and the sand on this side here are going to be gone. And the only thing left in the middle of that pass is going to be the rocks. So really we've created a greater problem than what we had in the first place.
It's not the first time rock breakwaters were used on the island. The last time they were installed, they didn't last long. All that remains now are pieces of broken rock scattered on the beach.
Well, here in Louisiana, shrimp is very much part of the staple diet, available in all restaurants and at festivals. But since the oil spill, more and more people are becoming concerned about the goodness of a seafood gumbo or any other fish dish. Authorities say that they have developed sniff tests and that expert noses are the best way of knowing if there's anything fishy in the food. But many here remain unconvinced and are worried about the damage done, notably by dispersants. Usually it's shrimp that Eric Tizer brings in on his boat, but with fears that the oil spill has gotten into them, it's freshwater alligator he hauls home. Much to the amusement of those standing on shore, but there is no assurance that the gator has had a better chance of avoiding contamination. Despite being told by BP that the dispersants sprayed have not harmed the seafood, fishermen in Venice are convinced otherwise.
I see a lot of things out in the bayou that I really don't want to talk about. You know, they got dead fish just floating up everywhere. There's lack of oxygen in the water, but you know how much stuff they sprayed in the water? Ain't gonna blame it on what they want.
Hundreds of thousands of gallons of Corexit, the dispersant chosen by BP, were sprayed on the spill. Corexit was also used after the Exxon Valdez accident, but on a vastly smaller scale. BP says that they poured the dispersant on to protect the coastline and that they are happy with the results so far.
No, we're very, gratified about what we know about Corexit. Many of those tests, again, are government tests. This is an EPA-approved product. And, as far as we can tell, and again, long-term research will tell, but so far it doesn't seem to have any long-term effects.
According to a whistleblower at the Environmental Protection Agency, there were other less toxic dispersants available, but BP has close ties to the Corexit company. Senior analyst Hugh Kaufman fears the worst.
If you read the label on the barrels, it says it is acutely toxic to human beings. As one U.S. senator said, BP carpet bombed the Gulf region with this Corexit, much like the United States military carpet bombed Vietnam with Agent Orange.
It may take 10 to 20 years to know the full effects of the dispersants on the marine life and the people living and working in the Gulf. Well, we're now making our way up the Mississippi River towards New Orleans, and already fears over the toxicity levels after the oil spill are receding somewhat. However, there are new worries that problems may be present in some of the homes built rapidly after Hurricane Katrina. The musicians' village is hailed as a shining success story in the city, and yet behind closed doors it looks like corrosion may have already started. Hélène is just back from a tour across Europe. Greeting her upon return, a letter warning her that her home and others in the area may be toxic. She heads out to visit her neighbours to find out more. George has been living here for 3 years, but his home is already starting to corrode.
That was my grandfather's, and then it became black, and then I cleaned it and forgot about it, and then I looked over again, it was black again.
Oh wow, that's such a clear symbol of what's going on here too.
The problem is hydrogen sulfide. George's home has tested positive for levels above the norm. This gas has led to his tarnished trumpet and blackened the copper pipes, which could lead to long-term safety problems, and it can also cause health issues. George says he's developed a dry cough since moving in and that his energy levels have gone down.
There's a lot of speculation. The problem is, there are all kinds of other factors in our world today that make us sick. So how do you isolate what has caused my breathing problem? It could be the oil spill, because there's benzene in the air. We're being poisoned from, the Gulf Coast by the British, and our house is by the Chinese.
The cause of the problem here, Chinese drywall. Chinese drywall was used in the aftermath of Katrina, when homes had to be built quickly and at low cost. Helen's house was one of the last on the block to be built, so she's hopeful that she got lucky and that the toxic supplies had run out.
Trying to find the sign on the drywall saying "Made in China."
Oh, here we go.
Oh no!
Wait.
Made in China. The words no one in the musicians' village wants to see. Those that have tested positive for toxic levels, like George, are being told to leave. Helen wonders if she has the energy to do it all again. Well, it's along the banks of the Mississippi River that we're going to have to bring this show to a close. A big thanks to everyone who worked on it, notably the man on the other side of this camera, Jérôme Bonnard. Thanks also to René Kaplan and Jiong Jim. I hope you at home enjoyed, and I'll see you again next time.